Welcome everyone, this is episode 21 of the Heart for Excellence show, and today we have a very special guest, Matt. I've known Matt for about a year or so. We met at one of the Vail Institute leadership courses. We just talked a little bit to each other, not too much, just a little bit, and then we really got to know each other a lot more at the events. So thank you so much for being out there, bringing some fresh young blood in there. But before we get into today's episode, we want to do something special that just Holy Spirit brought upon us, which is start with a gratitude moment. Talk about what it is that we're thankful for. So I'll start off. The first thing that came to my mind is health. It's one of those things that I've been pretty blessed. I don't really get sick very often. But there's something, I don't know if I'm sick or I have some allergies, nothing major, but just enough to realize that, hey, I rarely ever get sick. And what a blessing, because there are so many people suffering from sickness, and health is one of those things you don't really appreciate till you lose.
Cool. My gratefulness moment is just like this morning, meeting up with other guys at 6:30 that are like-minded, like-hearted. I've got some goals this year, and I've avoided making goals in the years past, but this year I really have some goals that I'm passionate about, and it's going to take the guys that are surrounding me to accomplish them. So I'm just grateful for great friends that want to help me achieve the goals that are near and dear to my heart. Matt?
Yeah, man, I'm grateful just for just the opportunity to be here and really be alive today. And just kind of, I always think of every day as an opportunity just to get better and just serve my community really is the biggest thing.
Beautiful.
So.
Amen. Great stuff.
So I've known Matt for maybe just over 3 years through a mutual friend of ours, Will. And I've just come to admire you. Maybe that makes you like, what does that mean? The guy's 50, and he's admiring me. I'm 20, but I've come to admire you. The reason is because so many young guys are off doing things that are really destructive for their lives.
And they're done that.
Right?
Got the scars.
This guy, I know. And yet, as I get to know you, you purposefully and intentionally try to grow and mature and do right things. And you're open to correction. I've seen that, and I admire you. And it's an honor to have you on the podcast this morning at Heart for Excellence to share a little bit of your story. And I'm looking forward to hearing about how it all starts for you and really where things started going south for you, or where the brokenness starts happening in your heart. Concerning your dad and wherever you want to take it from there. So if you want to go for it.
Yeah. So I think part of what you said earlier was always wanting to do the right thing. I think that grew up, I think that came with me naturally, but I can remember, I can date back sometimes early when I was in daycare where teachers and stuff like that, they would go to my mom and be like, yeah, your son is so kind and so... Wow. He's just a nice kid. I'm glad I know him, and so I carried those memories with me and kind of into adulthood and teenage years. I was like, naturally, it's kind of weird when you talk about it and you go in third person and you're like, and you think of yourself as a nice person. It's like it's really weird. It just feels like you're something from a book.
And sometimes the society looks at a nice guy as a not desirable, right?
Or we'll eat them up and spit them out, right? We'll take advantage of them. We'll use them, and
Yep. And so I carried some of those memories through childhood, and then I guess probably where it kind of started, where I started seeing brokenness was I was around 5 years old, and I remember my mom and my dad. I don't remember how I got woken up. It was probably because they were arguing and stuff like that. But at this time, we were at my dad's house, and I woke up, walked downstairs, and I just see them arguing and fighting and stuff like that. It's young Matt, 5 years old, wondering what the heck's going on. I didn't really understand at the time. I can remember, just visually, my mom looking at me, and the fighting kind of stopped when I walked into the kitchen. And then after that, I just remember going upstairs, and then after that, to kind of fast forward a little bit, next thing I know, my mom and dad are getting a divorce, and we're looking for a new house.
So you were 5 when you walked downstairs. How old are you now at this point?
22.
No, at that point when they were looking for a new house.
At that point, I must have been going into first grade, second grade.
Okay, so maybe a year or so after that first, oh my goodness, mom and dad are fighting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so flash forward, about first, second grade, and so we're moving to a new house. I can remember the floor's not done. I remember I got McDonald's that day, and this is the first time walking into that house, the new house that me and my mom are going to be living at, and my sisters. And so I remember, getting McDonald's that day, and I think in that moment, I look back at it now, and I think that's the point where I kind of decided things are different.
Yeah,
things changed for it's surreal. Sometimes you don't feel things until later or after the fact, and then it hits you, and you're like, man, that was that moment right there.
It's profound. Most of us can go back to certain points in our life where a profound moment happened that changed everything for the better or the worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, get moved in, get everything like that, and then kind of fast forward a little bit to probably about 4th grade, and I would say this is where my love for girls began.
Oh, man.
Oh, girls aren't scary. They're really pretty.
There's a use for them.
Yes, there were. I remember this one girl. She was. I was real. I mean, head over heels. Just pretty much just fell in love. But the biggest regret with that, I think, is I never asked her out.
Mm-hmm.
Never asked her out, and I knew she liked me, and there was no reason for me not to, other than I was just a shy kid back then. So I didn't really have any confidence or anything like that.
I can relate.
So that happens about 4th grade, and then the following year, going into 5th grade, I find out that I'm going to be going to a different school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of shook me a little bit, because I was really into this girl, and all of a sudden, I'm going away from her, and I still haven't asked her out yet at this point for whatever reason, other than being shy and a wuss. But
we talked about that about 4 episodes ago. Why don't we engage in battle? Why don't we move forward when we said something?
Yes,
because we want guarantees. If there's no guarantees, I don't want to risk losing or failure or injury. We get that.
Fear of failure is real.
Yes,
doesn't matter the age.
Yep. So that's part of it. So going into 5th grade, moved out of new school, and I heard some stories or whatever that she cried over me or whatever that I was gone and stuff like that. So that kind of would set the tone for me for, I guess, girls, and asking them out and stuff like that. Like trying to pursue them was just, I couldn't finish.
It's daunting. It's a daunting task.
Yeah, it's a daunting task, and I couldn't finish. So and that actually kind of carried a little bit into the next school too, because I did end up liking someone else. Mm-hmm. And I did go through a little bit with it, like I did something for Valentine's Day, but then some kids that I thought were my friends, they kind of ruined that opportunity for me, because they went up to her and they basically told her I liked her, but it was obsessed with her in a weird way, and so she kind of rejected me. And so that was the first time I had been rejected by someone else.
So love is getting more painful, huh?
So yeah, it's getting more. It was a thing. Yeah. So at that point, it was all right. Well, I'm just gonna. I have no idea what. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this, and I kind of just. Yeah.
So you're exploring the dating scene, trying to work up courage and what does dating look like, and I find girls pretty, but how do you connect with girls? How does your dad, I know we talked at the beginning here a little bit before we went on mic, but about your dad, how does your dad now come into all of this and plays into all of this?
Yeah, so, to really start off, it began in 9th grade. Going into 9th grade, actually. Right around, I can never remember the exact date, even though it's not a gravestone, but around August and October, around the fall, I'll say. My dad was on a business trip in Japan. He was a chemical engineer. He was just kind of retiring from his old job and kind of starting his own business and kind of working for himself. So he had more flexible hours because he wanted to spend more time with me.
Right.
And so he went on a business trip in Japan. Just went out for a walk that morning and collapsed, had a heart attack, and died instantly.
Wow.
There was no try to save you. No, it was just lights out in a moment. Kind of moment. And so, I didn't know about this until, I want to say, I don't remember what day exactly happened on, but I remember I was playing video games in my mom's house, and my mom comes upstairs in the room. She's like, Matt, I got to tell you something. And, at first I wasn't, I was kind of like, oh, it's probably just some normal thing that, like, hey, your clothes are clean.
And you're in
or
ninth
something
grade.
Like that. Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Right before ninth grade
Right
year.
before, okay.
So I'm about to enter high school. And then so my mom comes upstairs. It's like, hey, I gotta tell you something. And, I take off my mic and I set my controller down and she's like, hey, your dad's dead.
Yeah.
And so at first, I was like, what? Like, it didn't sink in yet.
Yeah.
And so, at that moment, it just was like, just a moment of confusion, a moment of almost what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so, fast forward a little bit, they sent Japan sends him back into the U.S., so he gets here in the U.S., and, I remember going to his house, and, all my family came over, and we kind of discussed a little bit of okay, what is the next stages of burial, and, settlement agreements, who gets what or whatever, and stuff like that, so, that must have been, like, that week, that happened, and or just remember sitting there and, really at first I had no words. For a while I had no words. I'll ask questions, it'd be like kind of yes or no, and I just didn't. Nothing. I had no emotion. Nothing had settled really in yet. Nothing had really.
Everything's kind of numb.
Yeah, it was a numbing feeling, and so. They're kind of asking me all these questions and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of I never really gave an answer too much. I just kind of was just I don't know. I was in a blank state of mind.
But death is hard to process. Living's hard to process.
Especially at that age.
And then you're a young man, ninth grade roughly. What is that, 13 or something? Somewhere
About 14. I was 14, going to be turning 15 the next year.
How do you process death and the thought? But what's interesting, and in a way, you've kind of just gone through a second death, because how long before that your parents divorced?
Well, it would have been probably about 9 years before that. Yeah.
So they were divorced. So that would have put you. Boy, I'm terrible at math. How old were you when their parents divorced? 5?
5, yeah.
So what was that like? So take us back to that moment, because a lot of this ties in, right? You're at home. You came downstairs. Your parents are fighting, and then you're getting a new house. But really, it was that point when your parents were divorcing. You're 5 years old. What was that like? Do you remember, or how does that play into all these other feelings?
I would say the only familiar thing is that blank feeling of pretty much really just nothing. I don't have really a recollection of feeling in that moment. I just remember. I in my head I visualize it as like a video clip. A little kid walking down the stairs with his blanket, going into the kitchen, and seeing these two people arguing, and then not really knowing what's going on.
Yeah, I see.
And so, and that's just based off of memory, because I only remember that's pretty much the only thing I really remember from my my childhood really.
Yeah, because I didn't pick up, like, when you were sharing it. I don't know if you didn't talk about it or you didn't share. That was the point. They divorced. Then I heard you say then you and your mom were moving out to a different house. But divorce is such a big thing. Like, it's a ginormous thing that we...
Yeah, and I don't remember, like, going through the process of anything. Like, I just remember, literally, like I said, just the video clip of that moment that they were fighting. And then there's, like, an empty space where stuff I don't remember at all. And then all of a sudden, I remember first moving into the house, my mom's house now.
So what was the relationship with your dad like?
I would say early on, it was really... I would say almost like a typical dad, just wanting to go out and hang out with his son, spend as much time as he can, teaching him life lessons. There's always those. We talk about there's elders giving advice to younger people. There was always those moments I remember with him. Sharing me, son, this is. A big thing, and I got a tattoo, that's why I have a tattoo on my arm, was your last name. That's your legacy. Your first name is, it's the first thing people will say, but your last name is what's going to last. That's what's going to be in the books. And so that's why I got a tattoo on my arm, because that's something he said. That's something I remember him always saying. Well, at least one really good thing I can specifically remember, out of all the things he's probably taught me, was that. So
you had a good relationship with your dad.
Yeah, I would say it was overall a good relationship, pretty normal, other than the fact that, mom and dad were divorced and I had to jump in between houses.
And he stayed engaged with you, that he wanted to spend time. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then 9 years goes by and you're a young man and you get the news that he passed. And the feelings are really a numbness, like when went through a divorce, and maybe even more so now because you're older. I'm numb. I don't know what I feel. I don't think I want to feel, because that might be scary. Yeah. That might hurt too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So with all of that now, you're fast forwarding here a little bit, 22. How has that affected your life? So just specifically as we start winding down this episode with you, and I think we're going to need to do another episode if you're game.
Yep.
How do you put the relationship with your dad into context now? How has that affected you in your heart for some of the pains and some of the good things? Like, where are you at now? Where is that?
Yeah, so during that time so I had missed some school before I went to 9th grade. During that time, I had some reflection time, and I really just stayed at the house and really did much. And one day, I just remember I think I was playing a game on my computer, and I remember just kind of standing up, and this thought just came to me, and it was like, Matt, you can sit here for the rest of your life because of this. Even though I wasn't feeling anything, I still hadn't felt anything. I don't think at that point nothing had really processed. It was just kind of it was just a weird, like, something from, I wouldn't say it was God, but for me, I reiterate from myself, was just, hey, you can stay for the rest of your life, or you can go out and make something of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can pursue, there's more to life than just video games and not doing much and, moping about, death, even though it is tragic, yes.
Sure.
And it's hard for everyone. But you can get up and do something. That's the beauty of it, is you can get up and do something. You don't have to do this. You can get up and do this, which is even greater.
Yeah, I mean, as the name suggests, Heart for Excellence, just that recognition, again, we've talked about this so often, is we're not stuck with the hand that life deals me. Sure, life is going to deal me a hand.
Right.
Yep.
Either I'm going to do something with that hand, or I'm going to be a victim.
Yep.
And you, I know, I've observed you, right? And I observe things, and I make my notes in my head, and I have observed about you. Yeah. You keep moving forward. You just keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. You press on. And that's why I admire you. You haven't been dealt an easy hand either. You went through your parents' divorce. You went through your dad's passing, and you just keep pressing on. So you demonstrate a heart for excellence, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on this episode of Heart for Excellence. Any closing thoughts, Merritt, before we shut her down?
I'm just very impressed how you seem to have that turning point so young in your age. Because like I know about you, Trevor, but me, that was really my life when I was 30 years old. So it's very encouraging and very fantastic that you had that turning point very early in your age, and it obviously shows in the life that you lead that seed was planted in your heart so early in your life.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, hey, we're going to pick up the next episode with you and about some other things, okay? This one, just hearing a little bit of your life story, 2 impactful moments of divorce and death. And how do you get through that? How does that affect you in your heart? And how do you keep moving forward in healing and restoration?
Yep.
So thank you, my friend.
Yep.
Here, guys. Talk to you soon.